Picture a small, armored vehicle that quietly shaped the outcomes of countless battles across the globe during the Second World War. Though often overshadowed by tanks and heavy artillery, the British Universal Carrier, commonly, if incorrectly called the Bren Gun Carrier, proved indispensable to every Allied army in nearly every theater of war. From the burning deserts of North Africa to the frozen fields of Northern Europe, and from the jungles of Burma to the Pacific Islands, this compact, lightly armored vehicle carried troops, weapons, and supplies, often performing tasks that far exceeded its modest size. Its story spans decades of innovation, adaptation, and battlefield heroics, making it one of the most remarkable mechanized platforms of the 20th century. Origins and early development. The origins of the Universal Carrier trace back to the mid-1920s in Britain, when the Carden-Loyd Company began experimenting with small tracked vehicles powered by the Ford Model T engine. These machines were intended to provide mobility for infantry support weapons while being inexpensive and easy to produce. Among these early designs, the Mark VI of 1927 proved particularly influential. Although cramped and lightly armored, it was simple, cheap, and highly maneuverable. Its ability to traverse rough terrain made it a natural candidate for mechanized infantry units, which were increasingly seen as vital for modern warfare. In 1928, when Carden-Loyd merged with Vickers-Armstrongs, this line of light carriers was formalized into the British Army's arsenal. The small machine gun carrier, despite its limitations, quickly became a key component of the Army's modernization program. Its design emphasized affordability, speed of production, and versatility, principles that would guide all future iterations of the Universal Carrier.
The D-50 and early military use. By 1934, Vickers-Armstrong introduced the D-50 Carrier, which featured a two-man compartment at the front for driver and gunner, while narrow benches along the track guards accommodated additional crew members, creating a six-person capacity. The centrally mounted Ford V8 engine, paired with a four-speed gearbox and reverse mechanism, allowed the carrier to navigate rugged terrain with surprising reliability. Its steering and suspension systems were particularly praised for cross-country mobility, which made it ideal for reconnaissance and infantry support roles. In 1935, Vickers-Armstrong presented the experimental armored machine gun carrier to the British War Office. While it shared the D-50's engine and chassis, it added 6 millimeters of armor plating and was designed to carry a Vickers heavy machine gun, which could either be fired from the carrier or removed and mounted on a tripod. This versatility allowed the machine gun team to adapt quickly to changing battlefield conditions, whether providing suppressive fire from a vehicle or engaging targets from a static position. Carrier Machine Gun No. 1, Mark I, and Mark II. The Army soon standardized these designs, producing the Carrier Machine Gun No. 1, Mark I, followed by the No. 2, Mark I, which weighed 4.5 tons and measured 12 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 5 feet high. Unlike earlier models, the Mark II included a small compartment on the left side for a third crew member, protected by a raised hull plate. The centrally aligned Ford V8 engine produced 95 horsepower, enabling a top speed of 30 miles per hour or 48 kilometers per hour, and a range of 140 miles. The Mark II could carry a payload of 660 pounds,
and was clearly intended as a mobile weapons platform, capable of supporting both a Bren gun and an anti-tank rifle. Within a year, over 1,100 of these vehicles were built under Army contract. Introduction of the Bren gun and tactical adaptation. In 1935, the British Army adopted the .303 Bren gun, a light automatic weapon designed to replace the venerable Lewis gun. Weighing only 28 pounds and based on a Czech design, the Bren could be issued down to platoon level, providing infantry units with a reliable, rapid-fire weapon. By 1937, universal carriers were modified to transport and fire the Bren gun, giving rise to the informal nickname Bren Gun Carrier. By 1940, each infantry battalion typically received 10 carriers, each manned by a crew of 3 or 4, a driver, and 2 or 3 members of the Bren gun detachment. Some carrier sections also carried Boy's anti-tank rifles, giving infantry units a flexible, mobile anti-armor capability. Tactically, the carriers were designed to dismount their Bren guns quickly, allowing the vehicle to withdraw to safety while leaving the gun team to continue firing. Early models featured a bracket and crutch system that allowed the gun to be fired directly from the carrier. Later models simply held the weapon in a rubber-mounted slot, providing security without permanent attachment. Operational history, from France to the Pacific. At the outbreak of World War II, the British Army had over 2,275 Bren Gun Carriers in service. They were deployed in the Battle of France in 1940, often in reconnaissance and infantry support roles. Many were lost during the rapid German advance, but surviving vehicles were used in the North African campaign, where their mobility across sand dunes and desert terrain proved invaluable. Carriers participated in key operations such as Operation Compass 1940 to 1941, and later supported British forces in the long and grueling Western Desert Campaign, including the famous Battle of El Alamein in 1942. By the end of 1942, production had increased by 6,000 additional units. That same year, the improved Mark II universal carrier was introduced. The Mark II carried a crew of 4 and featured a fully enclosed front section of the top rack, waterproofing improvements, and a sturdier hull assembly. These carriers were also adapted for specialized roles. They carried small mortars, smoke projectors, radio equipment for command and reconnaissance, and even flamethrower variants in certain theaters. During the war, 11,000 Mark II carriers were produced, and the total number of universal carriers manufactured since 1936 exceeded 100,000. Global production and Allied use. The bulk of production took place in the United Kingdom, with some assembly in Canada under license by the Ford Motor Company. U.S. factories did not produce any universal carriers due to legislation limiting production to weapons already in use by American forces. Despite this, carriers were widely adopted by Commonwealth forces and used in virtually every Allied theater, including Burma, India, and even post-D-Day operations in France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Expanded roles during the war. As the war progressed, Allied commanders found new ways to employ the universal carrier. Motorized battalions in British armored divisions used them in scout platoons for reconnaissance missions, reporting enemy positions, and carrying messages across battlefields where communication lines were unreliable. From 1941 onwards, carriers were modified to transport 3-inch mortars, 66 rounds of high explosive and smoke shells, and even small anti-aircraft weapons in certain theaters. The mortar and its 5-man crew would dismount and deploy outside the vehicle, giving infantry units flexible indirect fire support. By 1943, British infantry divisions were restructured to include a brigade support group. Each such unit received 30 universal carriers, which were assigned to carry medium machine guns, Vickers, 4.2-inch mortars, and even 20mm anti-aircraft cannons. The carriers became the backbone of infantry mobility and firepower, supporting attacks, defensive operations, and supply transport across diverse terrain, from flooded plains in the Netherlands to the rugged hills of Italy. Post-war service and legacy. After the war, universal carriers remained in service across the world. Many were kept by the British Army for training and internal security duties, while surplus vehicles were supplied to other nations, including Ireland, Germany, Denmark, Egypt, and Israel. Even as late as the 1960s, these carriers could still be found in active service. Over their operational lifespan, the universal carrier demonstrated versatility, reliability, and simplicity, enabling it to support mechanized infantry operations in environments where larger armored vehicles could not operate effectively. Throughout World War II, the universal carrier earned the reputation as a workhorse of the British and Allied armies, quietly supporting troops on every front. Its design philosophy, mobility, adaptability, affordability, and ease of production made it one of the most widely used and enduring armored vehicles of the 20th century.